The ship's warning systems screamed in a language of light and frequency that no organic being could fully comprehend. Quantum stabilizers flickered like dying fireflies, their intricate crystal matrices shattering under pressures that defied conventional physics. Ambassador Krulax wasn't a typical Xeraxian diplomat. His bloodline traced back to the stellar cartographers, an ancient lineage of explorers who had mapped the treacherous regions between galactic spiral arms. He understood danger in ways most of his species could not, a genetic memory of survival etched into his very DNA. The diplomatic vessel, the Luminous Covenant, had been traveling through the Crimson Nebula on a mission of unprecedented sensitivity. Negotiations between the Galactic Concordance and the emerging Rim Confederacy hung in a delicate balance, with Krulax serving as the primary mediator. The cargo they carried wasn't just diplomatic documents. It was a quantum-encrypted data matrix containing potential solutions to centuries-old territorial disputes. Something was hunting them. The first signs had appeared 3 standard solar cycles ago, subtle gravitational anomalies that most navigational systems would have missed. But Krulax's specialized quantum resonance sensors had detected the micro-fluctuations. Probability waves that shouldn't exist were forming intricate patterns around their ship, like invisible predators circling their prey. His secondary navigation officer, Telex, had been the first to die. Not from violence, but from a quantum cascade that simply unraveled her molecular structure. One moment she was monitoring the ship's quantum drift, the next she was a fine mist of subatomic particles dispersing into the nebula's cosmic winds. The ship's AI, a sentient quantum intelligence named Araya, projected holographic warnings that danced like spectral ghosts across the bridge's environmental projection field. "Quantum destabilization imminent," she announced, her voice a perfect blend of mathematical precision and growing concern. Probability of survival, 0.37%. Krulax knew those odds intimately. As a stellar cartographer, he had logged countless missions where survival seemed impossible. But this was different. This wasn't a natural phenomenon. This was targeted, precise, a hunting algorithm disguised as cosmic chaos. His tentacles moved with practiced efficiency, accessing secure communication protocols that existed outside standard quantum communication bands. Whatever was hunting them had already compromised their primary systems. This transmission needed to be something else entirely, a message that could survive where traditional communication would be instantly obliterated. The data matrix they carried contained more than diplomatic secrets. It was a key, a potential solution to a conflict that could reshape the balance of power across 3 galactic sectors. Someone wanted that key destroyed, along with everyone who knew its contents. Araya's holographic form flickered, her quantum matrices beginning to fragment. "Ambassador," she said, her tone shifting from analytical to something remarkably close to emotional, "I have prepared a specialized transmission protocol. It will utilize quantum entanglement principles that exist outside standard communication spectrums." Krulax's translucent skin rippled with a complex pattern of colors, a Xeraxian emotional response that combined determination, fear, and a strange sense of anticipation. He had prepared for this moment his entire career. The transmission would be more than a simple distress call. It would be a challenge, a puzzle, a beacon designed to attract the most adaptable problem solvers in the known galaxy. As the Luminous Covenant began to tear itself apart, quantum fractures spreading like lightning across its hull, Krulax initiated the transmission. A message encoded not just with their location and desperate situation, but with a complex mathematical challenge that would require extraordinary intelligence to even comprehend. The nebula around them seemed to hold its breath. Space itself twisted, probability waves collapsing and reforming in patterns that would drive most species to madness. And then, silence, or what passed for silence in the vast, quantum-entangled complexity of interstellar space. The hunt was on. The Terran Deep Space Research Facility looked like nothing more than a series of nondescript orbital platforms, a deliberate design choice that masked its true purpose. Inside, the Quantum Anomaly Research Division operated in a state of controlled chaos, a place where the impossible was just another Tuesday. Dr. Elena Rodriguez sat in her personal workspace, a circular chamber that was equal parts scientific laboratory and artistic sanctuary. Holographic displays danced around her, each one showing a different slice of cosmic data. But her attention was fixed on something else entirely, a series of quantum interference patterns that most researchers would have dismissed as background noise. Her grandmother's old quantum communication device, a prototype from the early days of deep space exploration, sat quietly in the corner. It was an antique, a relic that most modern researchers would laugh at. But Elena knew better. The device had been built during humanity's first quantum communication experiments, before standardized protocols had been established. When the strange transmission first arrived, most systems had classified it as random data noise. But Elena's custom-built quantum analysis suite saw something different. Buried within the seemingly random quantum fluctuations was a pattern. No, a challenge. AI, she muttered, her custom AI assistant materializing as a shimmering holographic construct. Run a level 9 quantum decryption sequence. And not the standard protocols. I want something creative. AI was no ordinary artificial intelligence. Developed through a classified program that blended machine learning with quantum neural networks, she was more of a collaborative partner than a simple computational tool. Her holographic form shifted, becoming a swirling representation of mathematical possibilities. Analyzing. AI responded, her voice a melodic blend of computational precision and something almost human. The transmission contains multiple layers of encryption. It's not just a message. It's a complex mathematical puzzle. Elena's team was unlike any other research group in human space. They were the misfits, the ones who saw patterns where others saw chaos. Jack Chen, a quantum physicist who had been kicked out of 3 different research institutions for unorthodox methodologies. Marcus Williams, a xenomathematical specialist whose theories were considered so radical that most academic journals refused to publish his work. And then there was Captain Maria Rodriguez, Elena's sister and the most decorated rapid response fleet commander in the Terran Rescue Coordination Center. Where Elena saw mathematical puzzles, Maria saw potential rescue operations. This isn't just random data, Elena said, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. Someone, or something, wants this message to be discovered, but only by those capable of understanding it. The quantum interference patterns began to resolve into something more complex. It wasn't just a transmission, it was a key to something far larger than a simple distress signal. Marcus Williams entered the lab, carrying a stack of handwritten notebooks, a deliberate anachronism in an age of digital information. "You're looking at it wrong," he said, dropping the notebooks onto a holographic display. Instantly, the pages digitized, revealing complex mathematical theorems that seemed to dance between multiple dimensional spaces. "It's a recruitment signal," Marcus continued, his eyes gleaming with an almost manic intensity. "Not just a call for help, but a test. A way to identify species with specific cognitive and technological capabilities." Jack Chen looked up from his own workstation, a half-consumed nutrient pack balanced precariously on a pile of quantum computation matrices. "The mathematical complexity suggests a civilization far beyond our current understanding. These aren't just random quantum fluctuations. They're a deliberate communication." The Terran Rapid Response Fleet wasn't a conventional military formation. It was an organism, a living, breathing system of technology and human innovation that defied traditional understanding of space travel. The flagship, U.S. Prometheus, represented the pinnacle of human adaptive engineering. Its hull wasn't constructed in the traditional sense, but grown, a living composite of nanomaterial and quantum reactive alloys that could self-repair and reconfigure based on environmental challenges. Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura, the ship's primary systems architect, had spent decades developing a technology that blurred the lines between biological adaptation and mechanical engineering. Each of the 5 vessels in the fleet was a unique marvel, Where most species designed uniform fleets, humans approached spacecraft like living organisms, each with its own personality, quirks, and specialized capabilities. The Prometheus carried a crew that was equally unconventional. They weren't just specialists. They were problem solvers handpicked from disciplines that most military organizations would never consider. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's quantum research team integrated seamlessly with Captain Maria Rodriguez's rescue specialists, creating a hybrid operational approach that defied traditional military doctrine. Chief Engineer Alexei Volkov stood at the quantum drive control station, his augmented cybernetic interface allowing him to literally feel the ship's quantum harmonics. The drive wasn't just a propulsion system. It was a complex dance of probability manipulation that allowed the fleet to traverse space in ways that would make traditional physicists weep. Quantum drift stabilization at 98.7%. Volkov muttered, his Russian accent thick with concentration. We're riding probability waves like surfers on a cosmic ocean. The ship's experimental quantum drive worked by essentially folding space rather than moving through it. Traditional faster-than-light travel involved pushing against the universe's limitations. The Prometheus's drive simply rewrote those limitations, creating micro-dimensional shortcuts that conventional physics couldn't explain. Marcus Williams, the xenomathematical specialist, had developed the drive's core computational matrix. His theories suggested that space wasn't a static environment, but a dynamic, responsive medium that could be negotiated with, not conquered. Their trajectory wasn't a simple point-to-point journey. It was a complex algorithm that constantly adjusted based on quantum fluctuations detected by the ship's advanced sensor arrays. Each jump was a calculated risk, pushing the boundaries of what was scientifically possible. Incoming quantum interference pattern, announced AI, the ship's advanced AI. Her holographic representation shifted, becoming a three-dimensional map of probability streams. Detection suggests multiple potential threat vectors converging on our current trajectory. Captain Maria Rodriguez studied the holographic display, her augmented tactical overlay parsing information at speeds that would overwhelm most biological processing systems. Her cybernetic neural implants allowed her to process complex tactical scenarios in milliseconds, seeing potential outcomes like a chess grandmaster viewing multiple games simultaneously. We're not just traveling, she explained to her bridge crew. We're solving a living mathematical problem. Each quantum jump is a response to the universe's own challenge. The other vessels in the fleet weren't simple support craft. The U.S. Heisenberg, a research vessel commanded by Dr. Elena Rodriguez, carried an entire laboratory dedicated to quantum anomaly research. Its hull was lined with experimental sensor arrays that could detect quantum fluctuations at scales previously thought impossible. The U.S. Schrödinger, a medical and xenobiological support vessel, carried technologies that could potentially stabilize life forms existing in impossible quantum states. Its medical bay was less a traditional hospital and more a quantum probability manipulation chamber. Beneath the technological marvel, something more fundamental drove the mission. It wasn't just about rescue or scientific exploration. It was a fundamental human response to a challenge, a refusal to accept limitations imposed by conventional understanding. As they approached the coordinates of the mysterious transmission, the fleet moved like a living organism. Adaptive, responsive, unpredictable. The universe was about to meet humanity on its own terms. The moment of first contact was nothing like any xenobiological encounter in recorded galactic history. Lieutenant Jack Chen's boarding team materialized at the edge of quantum possibility, a realm where conventional matter existed in states that defied traditional understanding. Their adaptive environmental suits weren't just protective gear. They were living computational matrices that could reconfigure themselves in real time to match the most extreme environmental conditions. Initial sensor suites revealed something impossible: life signs that existed simultaneously in multiple quantum states. Dr. Saram Beek, the team's lead xenobiological specialist, approached the first quantum-suspended Zoraxian with a combination of scientific curiosity and profound respect. Her augmented sensory implants picked up micro-vibrations that suggested consciousness beyond traditional biological parameters. "It's like they're trapped in quantum superposition," she muttered into her communication link. "Not dead, not alive. Existing in a state of pure potential." The luminous Covenant's interior was a nightmare of fractured physics. Corridors twisted in impossible geometries, molecular structures phasing in and out of existence. Where most rescue teams would have declared the mission impossible, the human team saw a complex problem waiting to be solved. Specialist Rafael Ortiz, a quantum engineering prodigy, began deploying experimental stabilization drones. Each drone was a marvel of adaptive technology, capable of reading and manipulating quantum states in real time. They moved like living things, sensing the ship's quantum instabilities and working to create localized areas of molecular stability. "We're not just rescuing," Ortiz explained to Chen. "We're rewriting the fundamental rules of molecular cohesion." The ship's AI, had already begun processing the quantum data. Her computational matrix wasn't just analyzing. It was learning, adapting, creating new computational models with each millisecond of observation. The Zoraxian vessel was a puzzle box of unprecedented complexity, and ARIA was determined to crack its secrets. At the center of the ship's quantum chaos, they discovered something unexpected. The diplomatic data matrix wasn't just a collection of information. It was a living computational entity. Encrypted within its quantum structure were layers of information that went far beyond traditional diplomatic communications. "This isn't just a message," Chen realized, studying the holographic projections. "It's a warning, a complex mathematical proof that suggests something far larger is coming." Dr. Mbake's hand passed through a Zoraxian crew member, and then suddenly didn't. The quantum suspended being flickered, molecular structures stabilizing in response to the human team's intervention. Eyes that had been frozen in a moment of terror suddenly blinked. Ambassador Krillax was the first to fully materialize. His body reconstructed itself like a complex puzzle being solved in real time, quantum uncertainties resolving into definitive biological matter. "You," he gasped, looking at the human rescue team. "You shouldn't be possible." The message was clear in his quantum-fractured memories. The attack on the luminous Covenant wasn't a simple diplomatic incident. It was part of a larger conflict that threatened the fundamental stability of galactic power structures. Rafael Ortiz's stabilization drones continued their work, creating islands of molecular stability in a sea of quantum uncertainty. Each drone was a testament to human ingenuity, technologies that could manipulate matter at its most fundamental level. "We're not just here to rescue," Lieutenant Chen said, helping Krillax stabilize. "We're here to understand." The ambassador's translucent skin rippled with complex color patterns, a Zoraxian emotional response that suggested a mixture of gratitude, shock, and growing understanding. Humanity wasn't just a young species. They were something else entirely. Problem solvers who saw the impossible as nothing more than an interesting challenge. As the first Zoraxian crew members began to fully materialize, the true nature of the rescue mission became clear. This wasn't just about saving lives. It was about preventing a conflict that could reshape the entire galactic power structure. The quantum ghosts of the luminous Covenant were awakening, and humanity had just changed the rules of engagement. The medical bay of the U.S. Schrödinger was less a traditional hospital and more a living laboratory of impossible possibilities. Here, the boundaries between medical science, quantum physics, and pure imagination blurred into something entirely new. Dr. Imani Okoro stood at the epicenter of a medical revolution. Her team wasn't just treating the rescued Zoraxians. They were rewriting the fundamental understanding of biological restoration. Each patient was a universe of quantum complexities, their molecular structures telling a story far more intricate than any medical scan could fully capture. "We're not healing," she explained to Ambassador Krillax, who watched the procedure with a mixture of terror and fascination. "We're negotiating with biology itself." The resonance protocol was her creation, a treatment methodology that approached healing as a form of complex communication. Traditional medical approaches saw the body as a machine to be repaired. Okuro's method treated biological systems as dynamic, responsive networks that could be coaxed back to optimal functionality. Specialized nano-regenerative matrices danced around the Zoraxian patients. These weren't simple medical nanobots, but adaptive quantum computational units that could read, interpret, and actively modify cellular structures. Each nanobot was a miniature supercomputer, capable of making millions of computational decisions per microsecond. Captain Maria Rodriguez observed from the observation deck, her augmented neural interface allowing her to process the medical data in real time. The rescue mission had transformed into something far more profound, a first contact scenario that redefined the boundaries of medical science. "It's not just about saving lives," she muttered to her AI assistant. "It's about understanding them." The quantum damage to the Zoraxian crew was unlike anything human medical science had previously encountered. Their molecular structures had been fractured across multiple probability states, existing simultaneously in various stages of damage and potential healing. Traditional medical approaches would have declared them beyond salvation. But human innovation thrived on impossibility. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's quantum research team had been working on theoretical models of multi-state biological restoration for years. What had been academic speculation was now becoming practical application. Each Zoraxian patient became a living experiment, their recovery a complex dance of quantum probabilities. Marcus Williams, the xenomathematical specialist, had developed a breakthrough computational model that could predict cellular regeneration across multiple quantum states. His theories suggested that biological healing wasn't a linear process, but a multidimensional negotiation between potential states of existence. "Look," he said, pointing to a holographic display that showed a Zoraxian patient's cellular structure. "We're not just repairing damage. We're creating a dialogue with their fundamental biological matrix." The medical nanobots began to emit a soft, almost musical resonance. It wasn't sound in the traditional sense, but a complex quantum frequency that interacted directly with the patient's cellular structures. Each frequency was a carefully calculated communication, encouraging molecular reconstruction. Ambassador Krulax watched in stunned silence. The humans weren't just saving his crew. They were demonstrating a level of medical technology that seemed more like magic than science. "Your species," he said to Dr. Okoro, "doesn't just solve problems. You transform them." Nearby, Rafael Ortiz continued calibrating the quantum stabilization systems. What had begun as a rescue mission was evolving into something far more significant, a comprehensive study of how biological systems could survive and thrive under impossible conditions. The Zoraxian crew members began to stabilize, but they were changed, not just physically, but fundamentally. The quantum restoration process had altered their molecular structures, creating hybrid beings that existed between their original biological state and something entirely new. As the first fully restored Zoraxian opened their eyes, the medical team realized they had done more than save a diplomatic mission. They had initiated a transformation that would challenge everything known about biological adaptation. The universe had just witnessed a new form of medical miracle. The Vexnar hegemony's primary strategical hub wasn't a traditional military installation. It was a cosmic nexus, a multi-dimensional computational array that processed galactic-scale strategies with terrifying precision. High Strategist Krulax reviewed the incoming quantum intelligence reports, his neural interfaces crackling with suppressed rage. The attack on the Zoraxian diplomatic mission was supposed to be a clean erasure, a surgical strike that would remove a potential diplomatic threat before it could fully materialize. Humanity was not supposed to be a variable. Deep within the hegemony's strategic matrices, something unprecedented was happening. The human rescue mission had not just saved the Zoraxian diplomatic team. They had introduced a completely unpredictable element into a carefully calculated galactic power play. The Vexnar intelligence network began to break down complex probability models. Each simulation revealed something more disturbing. The humans were adapting faster than any known species in recorded galactic history. Captain Maria Rodriguez was already 3 moves ahead. While the Vexnar were calculating, her fleet was moving. The quantum data recovered from the Luminous Covenant wasn't just diplomatic information. It was a roadmap to a larger conflict that had been brewing beneath the surface of galactic politics for generations. Aboard the U.S. Prometheus, a specialized intelligence team led by Dr. Elena Rodriguez began unraveling the deeper layers of the intercepted data. What they discovered was far more complex than a simple diplomatic incident. The diplomatic mission had been carrying information about a potential galactic resource, a quantum energy source that could fundamentally reshape interstellar power dynamics. The Vexnar hadn't just been trying to eliminate a diplomatic team. They were attempting to suppress a technological breakthrough that could destabilize the current galactic order. Marcus Williams stood before a holographic display, his fingers dancing across quantum computational matrices. "It's not just about territory," he explained to the bridge crew. "This is about controlling the fundamental energy sources that drive galactic civilization." The quantum energy source, dubbed the Nexus Potential by the research team, represented a form of power generation that could potentially eliminate resource conflicts across entire star systems. In the wrong hands, it could become the most devastating weapon in galactic history. In the right hands, it could usher in an era of unprecedented peace and technological advancement. Specialist Rafael Ortiz began developing targeting algorithms that defied conventional military strategy. Where traditional military approaches saw conflict as a linear progression, the human team was creating a multidimensional approach that treated strategic engagement as a complex, adaptive system. "We're not just responding," Ortiz explained. "We're rewriting the rules of engagement." The Vexnar Strategic Hub detected the human approach and began launching counter-strategies. Quantum warfare probes were deployed, sophisticated computational weapons designed to disrupt and destabilize opposing strategic networks. But human technology had an unexpected resilience. Each Vexnar computational attack was met with adaptive countermeasures. The human fleet didn't just defend, they learned. Every attack became an opportunity to understand the enemy's computational logic, to develop more sophisticated response protocols. Ambassador Krelax watched the unfolding strategic engagement with a mixture of terror and fascination. The humans weren't just fighting a war, they were conducting a comprehensive study of conflict itself. "Your species," he said to Captain Rodriguez, "doesn't see battle as destruction. You see it as a form of communication." Rodriguez's augmented tactical display showed multiple potential engagement scenarios. Where most military commanders would see chaos, she saw a complex, living system of potential interactions. The Vexnar had made a critical miscalculation. They had viewed humanity as a young, inexperienced species. Instead, they had awakened a civilization that saw conflict as the ultimate problem-solving exercise. The hunt was on, and humanity was writing entirely new rules of engagement. The Galactic Concordance Central Tribunal was not prepared for what was about to unfold. Diplomatic representatives from over 200 sentient species gathered in the resonance chamber, a massive spherical structure that existed in a state of quantum suspension, capable of simultaneously translating and interpreting multiple communication modes. Holographic representations flickered and shifted, representing civilizations that ranged from silicon-based hive minds to energy-dependent plasma entities. When the first transmission about the human rescue mission arrived, it was met with collective disbelief. Ambassador Lirana of the Crystalline Collective was the first to comprehend the full implications. Her species had long studied probability matrices and quantum communication, and she recognized something unique in the human approach. "This is not a rescue," she declared, her crystalline form refracting light in complex patterns that represented deep intellectual excitement. "This is a fundamental restructuring of galactic interaction protocols." The transmission detailed more than just the Zoraxian diplomatic mission's rescue. It revealed a comprehensive analysis of the conflict, the technological innovations used, and the broader strategic implications. Each data point was a carefully constructed narrative that challenged existing galactic power structures. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's research team had transformed a simple rescue mission into a comprehensive diplomatic and technological demonstration. The quantum data they had recovered and analyzed was a Rosetta Stone of interstellar potential, showing not just what happened, but revealing entirely new ways of understanding conflict, diplomacy, and technological innovation. The Quantum Diplomatic Archive, a massive computational network that tracked interstellar interactions, began to recategorize human actions. They were no longer a young, emerging species. They were a transformative force. Representative Kithax from the Nebular Consensus found himself both terrified and fascinated. Humanity had demonstrated capabilities that defied conventional understanding. They had not just rescued a diplomatic mission, they had rewritten the fundamental rules of interstellar engagement. They solve problems, Kithax muttered, the way a living system adapts. Not through force, but through comprehensive understanding. The transmission included detailed analysis of the quantum energy source, the nexus potential, but it wasn't presented as a weapon or a resource to be fought over. Instead, the human research team had developed a comprehensive framework for its collaborative development, demonstrating an approach to technology that prioritized collective advancement over individual gain. Ambassador Krulax stood as a living testament to human capabilities. The quantum restoration he had undergone had fundamentally altered his physiological and cognitive capabilities. He was no longer just a diplomatic representative. He was a bridge between civilizations. The Galactic Concordance's predictive models began to shift. Humanity was introducing the new variable into galactic political calculations, a species that didn't just respond to challenges, but transformed them into opportunities for collective growth. Dr. Marcus Williams had prepared a comprehensive report that went far beyond traditional diplomatic documentation. It was a complex mathematical and philosophical treatise that demonstrated how human problem-solving approached challenges as living, adaptive systems. "We're not presenting a solution," Williams explained in the transmission. "We're offering a methodology of understanding." The most radical aspect was how the humans had approached the rescue. They hadn't just saved lives. They had developed technologies that could potentially revolutionize medical science across multiple species. The quantum restoration techniques developed during the mission represented a breakthrough that could transform how civilizations understood biological adaptation. Representative Lyra Anna's analysis revealed something even more profound. The human approach wasn't just technological, it was fundamentally philosophical. They saw challenges not as obstacles to be overcome, but as complex systems to be understood and transformed. As the transmission concluded, the Galactic Concordance found itself at a pivotal moment. Humanity had just demonstrated that they were not just another species to be categorized and managed. They were a transformative force. And the galaxy would never be the same. The small colony world of New Horizon wasn't a typical human settlement. Nestled on the edge of explored space, it represented something far more significant than a mere outpost. It was a living laboratory of interstellar potential. Dr. Kira Nakamura watched the sunrise from the colony's primary research complex, her augmented vision parsing layers of environmental data that would be invisible to unmodified human perception. The colony was more than a human settlement. It was an ongoing experiment in adaptive civilization. Ambassador Krulax stood beside her, his quantum-restored body a testament to the transformative journey that had brought him here. No longer fully Xeraxian, no longer entirely human, he had become something unprecedented. "We are not an endpoint," Krulax said, his voice a complex resonance that blended biological communication with quantum-enhanced linguistic patterns. "We are a bridge." The rescue mission that had begun as a simple distress call had evolved into something far more profound. The nexus potential, the quantum energy source that had been the initial catalyst, was now being developed as a collaborative project involving over 30 different sentient species. But this wasn't just about technology. It was about a fundamental reimagining of interstellar cooperation. In the central plaza, children from multiple species played together, their genetic modifications, and adaptive learning systems creating a form of communication that transcended traditional linguistic barriers. Genetic therapy and quantum neural interfaces had created a generation that saw difference not as a challenge, but as an opportunity for growth. Captain Maria Rodriguez, now serving as the colony's primary strategic advisor, watched the scene with a mixture of pride and contemplation. The mission had been about more than rescue. It had been about demonstrating a fundamental truth about existence itself. Survival isn't about dominance, she often told the colony's leadership council. It's about adaptation, about understanding. The research complex behind them housed technologies that would have seemed like pure fantasy just a decade earlier. Quantum communication systems that could translate between species at the molecular level. Adaptive environmental restoration technologies that could rehabilitate entire planetary ecosystems. Medical technologies that could rewrite the fundamental understanding of biological potential. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's quantum research team had become something more than traditional scientists. They were architects of possibility, designing technological and social frameworks that challenged every previous understanding of interstellar interaction. Marcus Williams stood in the colony's central archive, surrounded by holographic representations of the complex mathematical models that had guided their journey. Each model was a living thing, constantly updating, constantly evolving. "We're not documenting history," he explained to a group of young researchers. "We're creating a framework for understanding how civilizations grow." The Vexnar hegemony, once a potential threat, had been transformed. Their strategic approach had been fundamentally altered by the encounter. What had begun as a potential conflict had become a collaborative research initiative. Rafael Ortiz's adaptive technology research had produced breakthroughs that redefined the boundaries between biological and technological systems. The line between organic life and computational intelligence had become beautifully, impossibly blurred. As the sun continued to rise over New Horizon, Kira Nakamura understood something profound. The rescue mission wasn't an endpoint. It was a beginning. Humanity hadn't conquered the stars. They had learned to dance with them. The distress call that had started everything was now preserved in the colony's central archive, not as a moment of crisis, but as a testament to possibility. A reminder that the most profound transformations often begin with a simple act of reaching out. Beyond the colony's protective dome, the stars waited, not as a challenge to be conquered, but as an invitation to be understood. Humanity had answered that invitation, and the journey was just beginning.